60-25-92, and let us know what you're thinking with the discussion that is happening here today. So let me get to the panel that is with me today. On my immediate left, Professor Sarah Sali, the Dean at the School of Women and Gender Studies at Makya University. She's with us this evening. Good evening, Professor.
Good evening, Timothy. Good evening, our viewers.
Senior Counsel Edgar Tavaro, Senior Counsel, political analyst, but also a businessman at that. Good evening, Counsel.
Good evening, Timothy, and good evening to our viewers. Happy to be here, particularly in the company of these legends that you're going to introduce. I'm humbled.
Thank you so much for gracing us. Next to Edgar is Madame Rosemary Chisembo, the Executive Director of the National Identification and Registration Authority, NIRA, as we know it short form. She's here with us. Good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for coming back. You promised to come back, especially to discuss this patent issue of national IDs.
Thank you.
Next to Madame Chisembo is Ambassador Edith Grace Sempala, a seasoned diplomat and a member of the Alliance of National Transformation as the leader of the Women's League. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Timothy. Good evening, viewers. Very happy to be with this distinguished panel.
The last time he was here, referred to himself as our standby generator. Honorable Captain Edward Pabo, a senior citizen at that.
Good evening. Today is a senior citizen day. It's good that you've mentioned that one. At the same time, I'm looking for a book. I saw somebody reading a book, The Biggest Thief. I saw it on social media, but there was no author. But it was there saying The Biggest Thief. So I'm looking for that book. If anybody has it, please, I'm asking the man from Makere, maybe in the library of the law school, they might have that one.
We will not go that far, but we'll leave it at that.
I see why he refers to himself as standby generator.
No, the reason they refer to me as just standby is whenever they don't have somebody here, they call me.
Oh, it's in that regard, okay. I wouldn't mind the other regards as well.
So you see, the show has started as early as it could, but we also want to take cognizance of 3 areas there. 14 districts have been earmarked as oil wells there, and also the faction of Katonga seems to have made recommendations on what should happen to the party, and finally the reshuffle of the RDCs. Those are topics that are there that we have pinned till further notice. But for now, we want to pay tribute to one man that is remembered as a gentleman, someone that was quiet but very intelligent, Honorable Chidu Makubuya. And as a panel here, we'll be paying our tribute, and I'll start with Professor Sarah Sali. It's only honorable that we give honor where it's due. Professor, your tribute to the late Honorable Chidu Makubuya.
Yes, thank you, Timothy. I think coming from Makere, we are paying tribute to 2 people.
Yes.
One is Mr. Mtekanga, who wrote the Makere anthem. So his funeral service is also tomorrow. And then we have Honorable Chidu Makubuya. Both of them were Makere people. He was a lecturer in Makere. He raised his family in Makere. Many of his people are well known to us. So we know him as someone who was very brilliant. He was an icon in the law school. And he did his bit leading the judicial faction of this country. So we shall greatly miss him, and condolences to his family, some of who actually are our colleagues in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Counsel Edgar, I think him being an Attorney General, being in government, you and Captain Babu would have really profound words going there. Your take on paying tribute to the late?
I don't know what words to use exactly in reference to Professor Chidu Makubuya. He was a giant in every sense of the word. Tall, he scored a first-class degree, a distinguished lawyer. He's actually a classmate, a year mate of my father. My father is Justice Patrick Tavaro, who's retired. The class of 1974. And he was head of their class, as it was the best student in their class. He as well became a neighbor of my parents in Ntinda, together with the late Mayanja and Kanji. Immediate neighbors. Both are now deceased, and they both worked as ministers for justice. Although for Mayanja and Kanji it was He didn't have the Attorney General aspect of it. So, Dr. Chidu Makubuya, I mean, on weekends, he would walk without bodyguards to go and buy his newspapers from Ntinda. And all the borders, you know, knew him. Professor, at that time he was the Minister for Education, then later the Attorney General struck Minister of Justice. He liked to walk to Aristoc from the Attorney General's chambers to go and buy books. And he was such an avid reader. He and his spouse, I remember gifting me a book by Minister for Secretary for Human Settlements, Housing in under Trump, the black guy, the surgeon.
Ben Carson.
Ben Carson. He gave me his biography. He gifted me
Gifted
his
hands.
Gifted Hands, and it was such a profound book. I'm a lawyer, and I was teaching at university at that time. I wondered why Professor didn't give me any of his books, but he gifted me with that book, and it was very, and that is testament to Professor Chidu Makubuya. He connected with with people of all sorts of life. And at another personal level, in 2014, December, I was one of the people who were chosen to volunteer vetting and accreditation for the delegates conference of that year in 2014. Believe me, he had already resigned his position as minister between 2011 and 2016 elections. And you know, when you are accrediting these other legends, they would give you this approach as, how can you not know me? But Professor Chidu Makubuya, so humble, presenting his credentials, you send him to no airs around him. Quite frankly, he's a person who will be greatly missed, and my deepest condolences and prayers for the grieving family. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Edgar. Madam Idi, you're paying tribute to the Honorable Chidu Makubuya.
I think one of the ways to pay tribute to somebody is to highlight their impact on the society which they sought to serve. And for that purpose, I would like to highlight two of the key roles he played. One on the Commission of Inquiry for Human Rights Violations, and on the Constitutional Commission. We have had the Constitution Commission since 1995. We even had a battle of Tojikwata Kojikwate. So it is an icon in our history, and we respect the 1995 Constitution, and it has, you know, guarded our nation's democracy for the last so many years, which I think is something we would like to pay tribute to all who participated, and him in this particular instance, but also for his great contribution to, many people got first-class degrees, many people are extremely brilliant, but not many people have served their country like he has.
Distinction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well said there. Ambassador Edith.
For me, I think what stands out is that has left a legacy of servant leadership, which is something that we need desperately, especially in this nation. Everybody talks about him being able to walk. I mean, we all were gifted with the legs, and legs are for walking. So, but he did, he was able to relate to different levels of citizens with a lot of humility. And really that stands out for me. So my condolences to the bereaved, and may his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. Lastly, Captain Francis Babu, your tribute.
Thank you very much. We went to the same school, Makya School.
Yeah.
He was younger than I am by 1 year. And we've known each other for many, many years. People who came in my group that time are very honest people. And this system we have today doesn't like honest people. And towards the end, when Professor Makya was coming out of government, some people played games with him. But to play with a man who has built his reputation is a very annoying thing. And whoever did it, I want to take this opportunity today to tell him some of us will celebrate his passing on. Celebrate, not get our hand on the cheek, but to celebrate his achievement as a man and how he built himself. It is not the name that makes the man, it's the man who makes the name. And in this particular case, Chidu Makya made the name. And whatever traps people put in his way to spoil his reputation, shame on them. Because this man did not have those funny things they talked about. And I hope he has a peaceful rest. And as we say in my religion, the perpetual light shine upon his soul forever. He was a good man.
Amen.
An absolutely good gentleman. And the people in this government who still do these things, trapping others who are in politics, time has come for them to stop. And I will not stop telling them, because I know who they are. They are bad people, and they spoil this country. And they spoil people's reputation. A man builds his reputation for years and years, and suddenly you come and trap him to spoil his reputation. That's wrong. Totally wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And both as a show and the station, we pay our tribute to the family, and may the Lord comfort them in this trying time. But also as young people or as a country, I pray we pick a thing or two in his life to be able to emulate him, taking this country forward. Let's get into the gist of our discussion. And one of the things that is there, in 2021, the board of NIRA approved to be able to have the renewal and mass enrollment of national IDs. Cabinet approved it in August of 2022. And 2023, August, it was, the pilot was supposed to happen in June 2023. 2023, August, it was supposed to roll out. It has had a back and forth. The cost of this is 666.8 billion. Of that, 200 plus billion is supposed to buy the systems in place. And the dependence is on the parishes, dependence is on the RDCs moving forward there. But the last statement that came out was from the Minister of State for Internal Affairs, where he said the expired IDs will be valid, will go on to be valid, and an instrument will be coming out soon. That's why we bring in Madam Chisembo here to be able to put perspective. Where are we with this mass enrollment and renewal process, being that 15.8 million Ugandans will have expired IDs come 2025 in June, but also 17.2 million will need IDs, especially looking at we're in the corner to get to elections.
Well, could you give a background to this and said in 2021 a concept paper was written, it was approved, and for all the 3 years I have been to NIRA, each year we have asked for the budget. And we were not in focus like we are now, but anyway, that said, in December 2023, government appropriated, Parliament appropriated 300 billion shillings. In February, 31 billion was warranted. On 26th of February 2024, the recruitment process began. A recruitment for the persons who would work at the parish level and other supporting roles, 22 job roles to be precise. Still in February, the procurement process began. still in February, the call of order for blank IDs was made. In March, the recruitment process was closed, the advert was closed, and the shortlist, selection, shortlisting, and all that process began. And the procurement process also went ahead in earnest. It had a few hiccups. On June 21st, 2024, the first batch of the money for the system, 190.5 billion shillings, was released onto NIRA's accounts. You must note that we contracted on July 8th, 2024. On July 17th, we started project kickoff for the system, because at the heart of this mass enrollment exercise is an ICT system. It must be noted that a procurement process and a delivery of a system is usually supposed to take a minimum of 6 to 12 months. The ICT system for itself of NIRA has over 25 technologies. So, we have started the project. Today we completed the business analysis for the first phase. Thank God for a young team of developers within NIRA who had done a lot of some of the development work for the first phase, but some of the technologies were not available because we've never had the iris, and we've never had a consolidated, what is called automated biometric identification system. We had an EFIS, which is automated fingerprint identification system, and we had a facial recognition system, but not in one, tool, not in one integrated tool. So now we are going to have an integrated tool. So even if these zealous developers had wanted, there are certain technologies that were not available to them. We are hoping, praying, and working on 15th October to go live with what is called the pre-registration, where we'll allow the first group of people to apply online, whether it be for the first time they've never applied in their lives. And we are hoping and we are still saying we do have an old system. It's slow, but it's still working. If you think you've never registered and want to participate in the election, please come and register on that old system, because we're not going to get rid of the old records, the 27.4 million records that we have. From what we got from the census results, we estimate that not more than 2 to 3 million people who are eligible for voting are not registered. So we think between 19 to 20 million of the persons who are of voting age are registered. The bulk of the 17.2 million who should be registered in this exercise are below the age of 18. There are 15.8 million cards. What is government mitigation measures? One, your biometrics don't change and you have a NIN. So your biometrics can be verified. Okay, they may degenerate, but if they don't degenerate, they are the same, and the NIN doesn't change. So there are two groups of people. There are 15.8 million cards that need to be renewed. The good news about those 15.8 million people is that they have NINs. They have national identification numbers. They are identified. Of the 17.2 million we need to register, only 2 to 3 million of those are eligible for the register. So I think I have summarized the journey this year.
And I'm really grateful because such milestones are not out there for the public to appreciate. I wish you had even expounded a little bit more on births and deaths, especially births, because you have names captured there for children. But what are the biggest hiccups, minus the finances? What are the biggest hiccups that have got us back and forth, and yet we see elections are closer, but also let's say, for you to have a bank account, you need a national ID. For any legal document, passport, anything, you need that national ID. Am I going to present my name? So just the challenges and how I present my name to a bank or to the passport office.
I think the biggest hiccups lie across different areas. One, in 2014, government acquired this state-of-the-art, equipment. In 4 to 8 months, they had registered 16.2 million Ugandans. They are going to replace that equipment 10 years after. So in essence, the maintenance, the support of this infrastructure would have, a smaller number. One. Still at the history of this exercise, the history of this exercise started with citizen registration, adults. The focus needs to change from the citizen, the adults. Even now, there's an adult focus, elections and all that. But if we were registering annually, we would not be chasing about 15 million who are unregistered. But I don't want to blame, it doesn't make sense. We all have there's a combination of people, there's a combination of process, there's a combination of technology there. The synergies even within us as government. Children, 83% of our population is now born in health facilities. Is there a system that connects? That's a journey we are making. Also, as a country, we've not had it smooth sailing. We've had many urgent matters to deal with, from disasters to COVID to other key pressing infrastructure, building roads, building schools, building hospitals. So it's many priorities competing for a very small basket. I dare say, I think one bank registered last year a profit of 400 billion, if I'm not confused. I would like to call the private sector in this country to partner more, especially where, imagine if they had given us or worked with us to register just their clients or their potential clients, would not be in this place of whining. So I think there is a place where we need to hold each other's hands. We have grown up in an environment where we look to one source, and that's government. But I think there is a synergy within all stakeholders that could change the dynamic, especially of some of the basic social services that do not need, that have no political undertones and overtones, because everybody needs an ID. Doesn't matter your allegiances. So I think more the question should be, what should we do better next time?
And we're going to come to that. We want to just be able to look at the challenges and then come back to that area of solutions.
I think I would spend more time on the other side and say, what would I do differently next time? I would reinforce birth registration. What would I do differently next time? I would encourage more, even from a legal framework. A PPP right now is quite a complex, vehicle of government, and but how can we have simple partnerships and collaborations that would deliver services and benefit all of us in a manner that doesn't require, very complex arrangements? What would I do better next time? Would replace the technology faster. NIRA has never in her 10 years of existence has she had more than 50% of staff? She struggles between 48 to 50% of staff. That means for every 80,000 unregistered Ugandans, there's one NIRA staff. So in essence, there are several things we could have buffered this, maybe. So I think there are several things that would have done differently, and we are on that journey. We are on that journey.
Thank you very much. And also the clarity that it's not the name that's expiring, it's the ID that is. Edgar, let me come to you. This instrument that the minister is talking about, of expired IDs, you as a legal mind, help us understand that point. But also secondly, when you look at this ping pong of these national IDs, what are we missing?
Ping pong? I think
it started in 2021. We're almost in election year and we're still here.
I like to make reference to history. If you do remember, in 2011, we were stampeded. Remember, I don't know whether I would be in order to mention names of companies on air, but I remember the German company that was employed to update our voters' roll. And you remember the ping pong, and it was obviously done without going through. It was a direct procurement upon a directive. And at that time, it was said to be state-of-the-art technology. Arguably so, because the company is well known, is known for producing quality. But as it were, we were let down, and we had to fall back on our what? On our earlier electoral roll and voters' cards that had been issued earlier. Why am I saying this? And I really feel for my sister, Madam Kisembo. Technocrats always want to design solutions, but policy does not move as fast as the desires and aspirations of technocracy. You know, politicians, I'm not in any way pointing fingers to Captain Babu. in the preamble to this show, he said he belongs to an endangered species, a generation that gave their due and honestly to this country. Now, we run a cash budget. We run a cash budget as a country, treasury. And quite frankly, our collections, Madam Kisembo has a background in tax enforcement and collection. Well, we try to, paint a picture of things that are happening. But the truth of the matter is that our tax base has not increased. So, as a government, we tend to manage by crisis rather than managing crisis. We manage by crisis. And, to use more politically acceptable language, there are many competing priorities. But the question is, the priority of renewing IDs, it's had a time frame, and we knew when they were going to expire. Fortunately, she's explained to us that the NIN doesn't expire. It's the what? The card, ID. And that there are new features that are supposed to be developing. And from the needs assessment, believe me, even if you were to take out a recruitment exercise to fill all the positions that they have, it would take a near miracle for Madam Kisembo to recruit extensively, fill all of those positions, and be in time for the 2026 elections. And that is the critical time. And being who we are, we Ugandans, we like to do things at the last moment. I mean, that's who we are. Over the years, in the past, there used to be some kind of urgency in doing things. But of late, it's our work ethos. And I'm not pointing fingers to any of our people, leaders. It is who we are, Ugandans. We wait for the last moment. You saw Kitezi. It has been known for some time, but it's only last month that you had, and you've seen the
letter,
the memo, the internal memo, and you've seen the the endorsements on the letter. 4th of July. We like to respond when matters have become an emergency. Because if it's about budgeting, frankly speaking, you would have had tranches of monies budgeted for this. You don't even have to wait for the so-called what they call supplementary budgets. The ones Captain Francis Babu was actually referring to in relation to the late, where they stampede people and the people do the amanyanga. But quite frankly, now going to the legal side, it's within really statutory instrument. It's the minister responsible for citizenship and citizenship affairs. An instrument extending it's administratively can be done, and I don't see any legal impediment as to the continuity of the IDs that we are carrying. But as Madame Kisemba said, as a technocrat and one who has a background in designing solutions, technology is always fast-paced. It moves faster than the regulation, faster than policy. They are talking of 9 other features that they have to introduce on the ID. That will always be a challenge. And as to how we can keep at pace with the technological developments, that is a question as old as humankind. We shall always lag behind. Even these features we are going to introduce, in 5 years' time, they may even be obsolete, with the AIs now being deepened in governance, in designing solutions to perform what were previously human tasks.
Edgar, in your travels across the globe or in the region, the national ID here is 10 years. For a document like this, does it need to be limited to just 10 years? Because look at a number of people coming in. She says 17.2 million. You have 15.8 that are waiting for new IDs. But 17.2 are on the line there. And if we put in perspective just the census, the ages between maybe 40, the older ones, it's about 33 million Ugandans. Can we be able to absorb this number with what she wants to be able to do?
That is the question we are posing. How can we be able to absorb that number if she's not availed resources? She's only human. She's only human, and all these solutions need resources. And no wonder she's exclaiming and saying, come on, look here, let us design, as we wait for government to release money, let us design ways of partnering with the private sector. You remember when we had a stampede over registration of KYC for our SIM cards? At first there was resistance, but it did happen. Did it take billions and billions of, did it take even $1 billion to go to have it done? I think she's thinking out of the box. And given the background that she's had where she designs solutions, I think we'd better start thinking loudly and maybe even implementing these other measures that she's proposing.
I mean, we've seen banks doing KYC. Every bank does KYC. Every telecom does KYC. 21 million people are on the registers. We are all doing the same thing, and we are the repository for KYC. And now the funds that have been spent in each of those private sectors, if they were put in one basket and say, okay, KYC start here, you can even control the money and say, government, we fear you. But you come and register here. Bring your machines here, or we will bring the machines and take them back. My point is that there is a need for us. Maybe I also need to mention that government has a precedent in this exercise. They registered 16.2 million people in 4 months.
4 months, yeah.
There is a precedent. There is a precedent. So it's not like it's not new to them. Actually, if we do anything less than that this time, we will be an embarrassment. But the late General Ronda led a team that registered 16.2 million people in 4 months.
Okay.
To the detriment of his health and and by the way, he fell out with many of the technocrats in the ministry because he insisted on a seven-day working week, including Sundays. You remember one time he appeared before, I think, the parliamentary committee responsible for internal affairs, and clearly the body language between him and one of the directors, and she said, I failed to work with my minister. And the minister said, look, I was given a responsibility to produce identity cards for the country. So for me, Sundays and Saturdays are not public holidays for me. I call my meetings on Sunday 9 a.m. I expect people to come. The director absents herself, and I've decided to go with those who want to go.
Thank you. Let me bring in Professor. Professor, we were, and yours is a two-pronged question, and I'll start with one and bring in the other. Something that the Madam ED has spoken about, especially government working in ISOs, silos. One, there's data with the passport office, the immigration, it has data there. You have data in the banks. You have data with the NIRA, you have data. There's a lot of data everywhere about Ugandans. At what point do we have integration to smoothen such processes? Because it's very important for everyone to have a national ID, but we still work in sectors and not in the programming that we talk about. How do we get it together?
Well, Timothy, that is not easy. Yeah, but I think it's very important that you're raising so that people can actually learn to work together. And I know there have always been attempts in this country to work together through things like sector-wide programming, integrated planning. Now we have parish development model. There have been all of these attempts to try and work outside the silos. But I think the challenge is that maybe we have had a longer history working with silos, that it becomes difficult for people to work outside the silos. But again, it goes back to what Madam Edie has said, where maybe there are some levels of trust or mistrust of everyone thinking they're pursuing their thing. But to just say something about the registration, it's not just Uganda which is obsessed with this registration. The registration business is the national identification and access to legal identification is a key requirement of SDG number 16, which actually provides for universal legal identification and has a target and is assessing countries by how much they will have registered their people, the proportion of people registered by 2030. They are looking at registration by birth, especially for children who are under 5. Now we are talking about adults, but ideally for them, according to UNDP, it should actually go to including birth registration, but also to find out legal registration of the citizens. And they think this is very important for the entire SDG, which is around peace, justice, strong institution, and is looking at things like health rights, economic rights, governance rights, and all that kind of thing. And actually, according to SDG 16.9, having access to legal registration or being registered with a civil entity of a particular state is actually perceived as a human right. So what NIRA is doing, I know we tend to reduce these things to politics and the timing of the elections, but we should know that there is a bigger global agenda about registering people. So when you have a database of people, then you can understand how well to plan for them. Most of what we do in this country is anecdotal. We just, of course, maybe with the resources we have, we sample a few, do a national household survey of a few, a census of a few, and based on that, we extrapolate and make an estimate of everything. But if you have people registered, and I know you talked about it's 10 years too short, but probably that is for some, but I think a lot also happens and changes within 10 years. So I think it is important that people are registered. It is important that everything is done to register as many people as possible, because it is when that happens that the state will be able to plan for its people, whether they are living in depressed communities, whether they don't have jobs, and all these things, you know, and you talked about everyone having data everywhere. Indeed, there's data everywhere, but this data is not integrated. It's not harmonized. So at the end of the day, we researchers collect data, government collects data, private sector collects data. And one thing I learned when we were doing data on household survival, healthcare planning of post-conflict northern Uganda, you know, we tried as researchers to try and come up with what we thought was a very good instrument. But because the donor then insisted, and we thought it was also wise for research uptake in future, to onboard the end users, the potential end users of the research. And UBOS came on board and said, we cannot use that data the way it is, because the way we organize our data, it has to be compacted in such a way, it must be organized in such a way. So unless you do it this way, even if you do a very good academic piece, we shall not be able to use it. So we are all collecting data, but we are collecting it in different ways. And at the end of the day, harmonizing it becomes a problem. The biggest user of data in any state, and that's why we have statistics, is governments. They need it. I know the banks and everybody else will collect what they want, schools and the rest, but the biggest user of data is going to be the state. So there has to be a mechanism of ensuring that this data is collected in a format that can actually be integrated. In the cases where the state can't reach, but you have a private sector reach, it should be done. But otherwise, where there is no private sector, the state needs to take that initiative. And if that does not happen, we shall keep throwing these things around, parish development model, Bonava Gagawale, and the rest. But because you don't have the figures, first of all, you don't know how many people are supposed to be beneficiaries. You don't know what actually they need to benefit from whatever programs. So even when you finally implement the programs, you cannot assess impact. Okay? So we just keep moving around because we cannot assess impact. And because we need to assess impact, we need to collect data. So we don't have a baseline. So it is important that we collect data in an integrated way. But if that does not happen, we shall all be singing from different hymn books. But at least for government entities, they should collect data together.
The last time Madam Edie was here and you were here, we had the ED of UBOS here, and we were talking about the census.
Yes.
I remember she was picking a page from what learnings can we learn from this census? There were problems with the tablets. There was problems with accessing them. What learnings can we have from that so that this process of mass enrollment and renewal is a smooth process?
Yeah, I know we want to talk about what went wrong, but also there's a lot that went right. and we expanded, I think, the reach. I mean, I saw people committed holding the gadgets on top and swimming through the rivers to access communities. I think that hasn't been there. I saw resilience, I saw people committed, I saw an expanded sheet. But you see, to go back to the tablets, the copies, and the rest, of course, what we learned from there is that probably the gadgets were not enough. So we need to ensure that they're enough. But I remember I registered in the initial bit of the national IDs. Of course, it was a stampede, but they were able to do a lot within 4 months. So what we now need is an expansion of those kind of gadgets, an expansion of the centers to register, an expansion of everything. But I think for me, beyond just the routine thing which occurs every 10 years, every 5 years, or every national household survey, we need to make this routine. And I know for a long time, people have been doing this. Schools have been getting the NINs for school children. If your NIN gets lost, at least for us where we live, you go to Kawempe, there is always someone ready to register. It does take some time. I think this should not wait for an event, but it should be part of the normal rubric of society. And for me, it's not that I'm just concerned about adults getting national IDs. I think every citizen has a right to legitimate registration. And that includes children who are born, that includes rural women and men, that includes elderly who may not be doing anything much. Everyone who exists in a space should be entitled to legal registration. It's just that we have resource limitations, that we do them in cycles. And you know, we have now built capacity in that we have national district population officers. So these people should be put should be equipped to work on a daily, not to just estimate with a few villages. If they have the right gadgets, the district population officers, and I think they should be also going down to parish. If you look at parish development model, I think the pillar number 6 is about routine collection of information. We should make these things work. Because only when we make them work that we shall go beyond mantras and use it for national policy making. Otherwise, we don't have baselines, then we don't know what impact, we are just always guessing around.
Thank you very much. Captain Francis Babu.
Yes, sir.
The last time we were here, I think about 2 shows, you raised the concern about the national IDs expiring.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the ED is here. How can we do this better? And is self-registration a possibility in a portal with technological advancements?
Yes, well, when you have a problem in your home with your budget, what do?
Prioritize.
You sit down and you look at your expenditure and you try to find a solution to the most urgent thing that you have to do. The people in this government are falling into that trap. Baganda have a saying, Tetucha ina nsonyi. We are not ashamed at all. Kitezi is one example. The other one is NIRA, where they've been playing for the last few years. We need to become a little bit more serious. Now, the ED, by the way, when you listen to the ED, you feel so hurt. She's got everything on her fingertips. All she needs is to be helped. Now let's go and look at what is in this country. We have driving permits. We have passports. We have the bank she's talked about. We've got all sorts of things. But let's go back to the basics. Many years ago when we started the RC system, we had something called registration of all residents of that place. In a small RC system. We lived in a little place here in Nakasero, where we had 120 residents and their children, where they were all registered in a book. It was manual. We did not have these nice electronic things. So each RC1 in this country can register every resident, including their children. That's point number 1. In fact, there was a point where they had to do it, even when a visitor came, they had to be registered. So registration can be done in many different ways. What Madame is saying is that we need something much more modern. You know, you are talking about electronics changing. I was looking at the iPhones. In the last few years, I've seen, we are now iPhone 16. Electronics is changing every day. So they are going to come out with more modern electronic stuff, and we need money to get that electronic system. What we need to do first and foremost, let's look at government and its expenditure. Government has got to get its wishes in order. They are spending here, they are spending. For example, we are going to Gulu for 5 billion.
Yeah.
What is good?
Are you with me?
Parliament.
Yes.
Next week, Wednesday.
Yeah. Because the people in Gulu are very poor, we need to have tourists who can come and spend in the city. And then I told them the most poorest people in this country are in Kampala here. As we talk right now, there are 8,000 people sleeping in the streets of Kampala as we talk now. So, when we are talking, government has got to get its finger out and start looking for the money to give NIRA so that we can start the exercise moving. And the only way to do that is for them to look at their expenditure and cut here and there to get NIRA going. Is it an important item to be done? Yes. What is more important? Of course, we've got other important items like security and so on and so forth. But here we have an important item which will even affect the elections of this country, which can cause even bigger problems in the economy. Because without that identity card, certain transactions might not be done. So we need to help NIRA. In fact, I don't want us to waste our time accusing NIRA this and that. No. The problem right now is only one. We need to give them the resources to be able to start the exercise moving. And the only person who can help us, by the way, we start with the Minister of Finance. And we start with His Excellency the President, who can sit down and see where they can get some little money and give her to start, even if it is in tranches, so that they start slowly as we go along. And we use all sorts of methods to try and register as many people as possible. When this thing was starting, some of us said, why do you want to put driving licenses there? You want to put a passport there? You want to put IDs there? Why don't you put all of them together? When you go to the United States, by the way, to get your driving license, that's where you get your identity card. I just want to give you an example. When I was in Texas, I was doing flying there, training. I did my driving license. I went to the driving place. They gave me my license, and they gave me my identity card. So, I want us to start thinking about working together. And she has brought it out very nicely. We have this private government and private sector working together. I think government is in position to try and get the Bankers Association, for example. She just brought the bank, to try and come in and see how they can work with the NIRA to get this exercise going. We are also talking about other agencies of government. We have agencies of government that actually can work with the NIRA, because they've got a certain small amount of budget which they can help to push to NIRA so that they can do their work. As far as I'm concerned, she's made her point very clear. We are ready. All what we are missing is money. Now, the money is not in her purview. She has to get to talk to somebody else. It is that group that we're asking, kindly please support NIRA to start the exercise.
And I must say that in December, the first tranche of 300 billion, okay, whatever amount got released was released. And this financial year, 148 billion was released. The simple point is, given the time it was released and the technologies you have to deliver, there is a need for time. That's a fact. Even Matoke, you could always it for a day to get the one that go walk that sort of the right color, text, and whatever. Even beer is brewed over days. So in essence, why are we supposed to switch on technologies like, you know, in essence, the money now we have gotten, at least the one that should start the system off, the people are on ground, and we are going to do everything as we've given, as the minister gave a date of October 15th to start. But before that happened, just a procurement process, international bidding procurement process, if you followed every step, it's 8 months. If you went to the book and followed bidding 21 days, yes,
in Uganda, the average, the cycle for you.
And you cannot start a procurement without funding. So in essence, let's, rather than mourn, I say 1.5 million children are born in a year. Now we are striving for these adults. But if we registered 1.5 million children a year, would have a smaller, each year would have a smaller, you know, crisis. And I want to invite partners in that area. I want to invite partners. Government's basket is known, it's declared every year. I want to invite partners, local, international. We have 6 million verifications on our system and 90 institutions linking to us. 6 million to 10 million actually a month. Okay. Meaning entities check on if Rosemary Xembo is Rosemary Xembo 6 million times for different people a month. That means the value of the ID is clear. There are 90 institutions integrating with us. So in this sense, we have friends within us with whom we can hold hands together and at least say that, okay, government has done the adults, how do we start the children? I hear so many children marches, run for the children, work for the children, and I'm like, register the children.
Okay, Madam Idi, let me finish with the captain so that I can come to Ambassador. I thought at some point I thought you were going to talk about Molokonyi, but you went to Matoke.
Yeah.
Captain
Now,
Francis
our wishes of the budget.
yes, and that's why I want to ask you.
Yeah, the wishes of our budget
Do you
sometimes.
foresee a supplementary, and what would be its justification?
Yeah, supplementary is a word, but you have the money to carry out the supplementary. You can go to Parliament and ask for supplementary, but you have it in the Treasury. The whole point is very simple. That's what I'm saying, is that the wishes or the list, you know, you have your supermarket list. The list of government, of the things they have to do. Can we go on to it and reduce certain things so that we can carry out this emergency issue, which requires time? You've just heard that to order certain items, you need a certain amount, 8 months, for example. So all I am trying to say is time. Now, what? By the way, the other day I was reading something, and there was a member of parliament in Kenya. He said, you know, we are having leaders. We are tired of village heroes. We need real leaders now. Village heroes. There are too many village heroes in this system. What we need now, no, seriously. I'm sorry to say this, but we now need people who are really people with cutting edge, people who can do things on time, people who think about the future, people who can save money. You know, by doing what she's saying, the earlier you do it, you save money. You actually, now, by delaying it, you're actually making this government lose money. You should be tried. So, I'm sorry, I'm tired of praising anybody. I am tired of, I was educated in Harvard, I have got to Oxford, I am from Makya. No, I want action. We want action. We want to save this government money. We want to perform. We want efficiency and effectiveness. And this is what she's saying. Give me within the time required, and I will deliver. That's all she's saying. So, the people in government, please look at your list and reduce it so that we can help her to deliver effectively.
Question I was going to ask who has the list, but let me come to Ambassador Edith. Ambassador, you have had the ED.
Yeah.
It seems for her soul is ready to work, but her hands are tied. How do we help that this does not come from where it is to a crisis, to an emergency, to a chitezi of sorts?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that what needs to be done is what Captain Babu has said. As a government, I don't believe that we don't have money, because we see money being flushed everywhere. So the money does exist, but it is not used for the priorities of the country. Because for me, what NIRA is doing now, or is trying to do, is a priority, which, if it turns into a crisis, can affect so many other sectors. Politics, security, all the other sectors will be affected if NIRA is allowed to fail. Should it fail? No. So I think what needs to be done is actually to, first and foremost, for the country, for the government to work together. Because, you know, if you're talking about parliament, if you're talking about judiciary, you're talking about, you know, the executive, if they all work together and maybe allow NIRA, allow Madam Idi to actually reach out to the private sector, because she said, she talked about the possibilities that do exist if NIRA was able to work with, say, the private sector that have the data. I don't know whether she's allowed to do that. Because I remember one time, I think General Katumba was IGP. He had a crisis with the housing of and wanted to fundraise, and he wasn't allowed to fundraise. Yet there was a need. So I think being pragmatic and being creative is what actually Madam Idi has told us is already doing. But the resources have to be available. And what I understand is that actually the money needed is not even so much. You're talking about, to say, 300 billion. That is nothing compared to the money being flushed around, taking the trips to Gulu, later on to wherever, Is that a priority? I don't think so. It may be good, it may be okay, but certainly in the given circumstances when NIRA doesn't have the resources, I think, it cannot be a priority. If we are all looking at Uganda as an entity, not looking at our own small, small space. So, yeah, I think that government must be able to do it because it will even save government money later on. But most importantly, it will save the other consequences that it could have if actually we allowed NIRA to fail, and then we enter into elections when Ugandans, probably majority or many Ugandans, are not actually registered.
Thank you very much. I'll end with Madam Idi. I think I'll make them clustered so that we can be able to, people in the diaspora, that's a question that is there, if you can respond to that. But also I think the second is the gruesomeness of waiting, getting registered, data disappearing, then you come back, the back and forth there. And I think the final question to this area is, what are the alternatives? Is there self-registration? Is that a possibility? For those that have iPhones, you can put your fingerprint, it has facial recognition. Are those possibilities that we can explore?
And one more question. Dual citizenship, are they allowed to have identity cards?
Yeah, I think they should.
I just wanted to know. Yes, I think so.
Uganda defines about 5 types of citizenship.
Sorry, let me throw in one there. The welders, and because I want us to be able to cater for everyone. The welders, you talked about fingerprints there, the kind of work they do, that the people that are doing Juakali jobs, fingerprints, you're talking about iris there. Really, do they understand these things?
She's going into citizenship, and that's an area that I have a very deep interest in because of I know professor is very uncomfortable but well, let the Indi speak.
We need to talk about foreign missions as well, but let me answer the questions that have been set before me. Dual citizenship among the citizens who are entitled to an IDS, and so are naturalized citizens, and so are citizens by registration, and so are citizens by birth or descent, and so are all those types of citizens. People in diaspora, both for people in diaspora and people in Kampala, we have online pre-registration. We are going to start with it for 2 weeks. Why? Because we are first receiving 1,000 kits. The total kits we are buying are 5,000, but we are first receiving 1,000. So we want to gather the numbers and know where to deploy most. So the kits will go into the field and be ready for the fingerprint taking by the October 29th. We'll start with the pre-registration on 15th, give ourselves 2 weeks, and then deploy as the other kits continue to come in country. On the issue of welders, this time we are also taking the iris. So maybe the welders have bad eyes and bad fingers, but they have a face. All living human beings have a face. And so if we can't get the 10 fingerprints, if we can't get the 2 irises, at least they have a what? A face. I want to assure Ugandans that within its means, government has done and is striving to make sure that, I'll start with the register, which is everybody's worry, that the 2 million or so, 2 to 3 million who are not on the register will get onto it. And I want to invite people, don't wait for 29th November. You know you don't have an ID. You know you have never registered. So it's not only government who is last minute.
It's a culture.
It's our culture, it's our ethos.
So you also come now. There's a system running. Come and register. And even when we start the other exercise, do come and register. Because right now, I wish I could complain about money, but no. The money has now been given, albeit late, but it's there now. But now, when we start, do come. It's a 10-month exercise. Let's not wait for month 8 to have the crisis. So government has placed in place strategies for the 2 to 3 million to get their names onto the register by November. We shall export them. We shall, we shall migrate them to the new system, and we shall work with them there. So the people in diaspora, you can apply online, and biometrics will be taken in embassies as it's usually done. The only new thing in this particular exercise is the online registration. Previously, all registration was offline. The beauty with online registration, it means someone captures the biographic data, the 140 fields. So when you go to the registration point for taking of biometrics, it will take a shorter time because somebody has captured. You captured your own biographics, and now you're just coming to take your fingerprints and all.
Thank you. Let me read some feedback that has come through. Thank you for the program. May I know the following from the NIRA ED? How long does it take from the time of registration of NIRA to the time I'm supposed to pick up my ID? Why do your registration machines take long to register citizens, hence causing people to stay in lines? If you misspell someone's name during registration, who is supposed to incur this cost? This is James from Fort Portal. Edward from Zana says, thank you for the show and thank you for hosting the executive director. I do not know when one ceases to be a citizen. Why can't we register once for all and we keep this renewal away? Okay. Quite lengthy. Hello, I appreciate the views by the panelists and the people there and the ED to discuss issues of identification registration. It's evident that most people did not consider registration exercise seriously. The inception, therefore, most people did not provide accurate information. How are they supposed to be catered for in this mass renewal? But also registration officers that fill in this data, most of them make spelling mistakes. Not what the applicant has said on the form, but it costs us a lot. Is it true that you provide the form and provide what you fill in as NIRA? Okay. Finally, before we take a break, okay, yes. I also have one here. I want to thank Honorable Babu and Professor Sarah. These are the people that should be planning for our country. Okay? And thank you, Tina. In my home, we are two people who have fingerprint challenges. One of them could not even be allowed to collect their ID. Another one's ID, but she can update her telecom lines. So the idea of capturing both iris and fingerprints is very welcome to me. Other than that, Benjamin in Kampala. For those that want to send us messages, please, the number is 0709 60 25 92. That's our WhatsApp number, but also you can go to our Twitter handle, UBC TV there, hashtag UBC Behind the Headlines, and let us know what you think. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be digging into the foreign missions there.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
I'm Dr. Sandy Nixon. I'm the economist of PDM Parliament Model, who sits at the Secretariat, and I'm in charge of pillar number 4, which is social services, and also Ediamfuna, which we call economics. So far, so good. As PDM, we come closer to the people, and that's its purpose, that brings service closer to the communities. Therefore, we made sure we come closer to the people. I myself, we came to know that these people are in need, mostly the Natet parish, because of the various activities they are doing. Therefore, we engaged them, and we had to call also other partners to come in to support, mostly on mindset. Yes, to change their mind.
Yes.
So I will appear in line 4.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines as we get into this last hour. My name is Timothy Nyangwe. So in the studio, I'm joined by Professor Sarah Sally, Senior Counsel Edgar Tabaro, the Executive Director of NIRA, Madam Rosemary Chisembo, Ambassador Edith Sempala, and Captain Francis Babu. It's only befitting that we wrap up with some of these messages. Good evening. I'm following from Kabale. What causes people to register for national IDs and they do not get them? There are people who registered for national IDs like 5 years ago, but they've never gotten them. Should we think that this problem shall not exist in the coming registration process? Madam Chisembo has taken note of that one. She'll respond before we switch gears. Good evening, Sebo. For registration, there is a problem with the whole system. What are they going to do with people who already have cards, and shall we need to line up again and we would just update our data and be given identification cards?
Village hero.
I think that has been mentioned. The 15th, go online, be able to do that. 29th of October, If you can, there will be 1,000 kits there. Get out there and get yourself registered. That has been mentioned. Finally, John Bosco in Kazo. There is also one here. John Bosco in Kazo, he says, why is it that NIRA doesn't give NINs? It actually does. It actually does. Before you get your national ID, you receive the NIN. So finally, kindly ask the NIRA ED why they have never released the shortlist of applicants for mass ID renewals and enrollment. It's close to 3.5 months without giving feedback to the applicants. We shall be grateful if she sheds light on this issue too. Thank you, Timothy. Madam Edie, the spot is yours.
Okay, thank you. There are questions on time. There are questions on fingerprints. And there are questions on mass enrollment. I think I need to mention that one of the key issues about misspelling of people's names and mishandling of their data, now that you have online registration, you will be entering your own data. You yourself, you will enter it. I hope you don't spell it wrong. Then we'll just be taking your fingerprints. That is the first mitigation level. The second mitigation level, this time we have 2 screens on the kit. There's a screen of the other person typing, and there's a screen this side of you looking at what that person is what? Typing. Okay, literacy levels and all that. If you can't read and write, come with someone who can read and write. So the other, whatever the other person is typing, you will be able to what? To see it. So in case you can't do it online, if you come and you are a walk-in client and you want someone to capture for you, you will have the chance to see what he's typing and also to say, no, you've misspelled my name or whatever. That option this time is available for you. Please use it. There was a question on why do we take long? I don't want to lament, please. I have been through this lamenting for 2-3 years now. Now that we have got new technologies, we hope to do better. Will we take off like a rocket? No. We shall take off, but at a certain time we shall stabilize. Even when a plane is taking off, there are 2 dangerous stages: take off and landing. It begins to cruise at 20,000 feet. At a certain point, it doesn't, you know. So we shall take off slowly, steadily, but surely. Our service level agreement at the end of 3 months or around that time is we hope to give everyone their ID in 7 days. That is our SLA for the new system. Will it happen in week 1? No. No, let me not attempt to lie to anybody. Because the system will go on. We'll probably have 1 million concurrent access. We'll probably extend, widen, do this. There will be some things that we'll learn, we'll tweak, and hopefully by the end of that period, we shall, 2 months or 1, we shall stabilize and move on and do a better job. Should this continue for a year? No. No, no, no. So, about the people who were hired, shortlisted, taken oral interviews and hired, because we have not started the exercise. If I give you an appointment letter today, I will need to pay you even when you're at home. So it doesn't add up. Secondly, some people did the interviews, but they are going to go to university in September. So it's a case of as soon as we are ready with, by October, we are looking at 2-3 weeks before October 15th to start giving out letters, training people as close to the date as possible, so that we don't have, you trained me in April and I forgot. You understand? But we have agreed as management to start sending out information with the disclaimers. We shall not start working, but you can start reading about how we do citizenship. You can start watching our videos on how registration is done. So that training starts even at a distance, and as it grows, it becomes more intense as the exercise draws closer.
Thank you for the brutal honesty, especially in telling us timelines. Ambassador Edith, let me come to you as we switch gears. The Canadian ambassador, videos went round on social media.
Ugandan High Commissioner.
The Ugandan High Commissioner to Canada. Videos took circulation on social media. It was awash with it. And the Canadian government writes and says, please. Then we have the casino saga. Began 3 weeks ago. Recently, the consulate general and the cohort there sent back.
Recalled.
Recalled. When you look at these two incidents, as us as a country, what do you make of them?
It is extremely embarrassing. It's a shame to the country. It is even a shame to Africa, because when you are out there, many times, you know, Africa is the one, and therefore whatever happens with a diplomat in one country has a tendency to have to have bad image on the whole continent.
Ambassador Chen is actually Dean of the African Corps.
So you see,
Ottawa.
so you can imagine, it is so unbelievable. For me, it was, you know, first of all, when I heard about the casino, I was desperately hoping it was not true.
By the way, what's the name of the casino? I just want to
That Captain Bobby's big.
It can't have a name because it's hidden.
Is it called the Crane, the Cob?
Captain Babu,
sorry.
You started with the book, now you're going to the casino.
One, you know, operating a casino in a diplomatic mission,
Yes.
is illegal. It is illegal in the country, and diplomats are not supposed to do illegal things. It's a business, basically. A business for the individual, as a company, not as a Uganda. But even Uganda wouldn't operate such kind of a business. For me, the audacity, the audacity of someone thinking that they could actually do that, and doing it, and it takes even days before they are recalled, and that there are no serious consequences, is very unfortunate. When you're a diplomat, you are actually representing the country. You are not representing a political party that you may be affiliated to, or an individual like, you know, the head of state. You are representing the country, and therefore you must be very conscious about your position, your role. You know that diplomats have diplomatic immunity. That is how they are esteemed. They are considered to be the heads of state. They are called excellencies because they like represent the head of state and the country. And therefore, ambassadors must behave in a way that does not bring disrepute to the country. They must act professionally, with respect. There is something called diplomatic etiquette. They must adhere to that. And they must be conscious that their actions, their behaviors, their character matter, and they have consequences, or they affect the image of the country. And therefore, they cannot be political activists. You cannot be, once you become, even if you were a politician before, when you become a diplomat, you are expected to behave like a diplomat and not a political activist. You must, one of the roles of a diplomat or of an ambassador is to take good care, or to take good care of the interests of the country. And those interests include actually citizens of your country in the host country.
Ambassador, what does this mean for Uganda's image with these two countries, the UAE and Canada, but also on the global playing field? What does it look like?
It doesn't look good. Generally, of course, you know that Uganda's image abroad is not particularly very good because of the tear gas, all the things that you know. So to add on diplomatic scandals is just adding salt to, to the wound. And so, very, very often, because it is about interests of countries, sometimes the interests may differ. And that is where diplomacy comes in, to try and harmonize the interests so that you do not have conflict between the countries. Obviously, even when you disagree as countries, you rarely break diplomatic relations except when it is extreme. Diplomatic relations are valued and they are protected even by the, international relations, Geneva Convention. They are protected simply because, regimes change, but countries don't change. Countries remain, people remain. And therefore, it is very, very important that these relations, even when they are strained, they still remain in place. Now, the role of a diplomat, even when, especially when the country you are accredited to and your own country are not really seeing eye to eye, your role is to in a very sophisticated way, try to maintain at least the status quo. You do that through your own, image. If a diplomat doesn't have an image, that image, and then the country has also a bad image, it becomes very complicated. It becomes very difficult. Because as a diplomat, you are supposed to really be extremely sophisticated in the way you conduct yourself, in the way that you dress up, the way you relate. I call it, it's a business of making friends and influencing people and policy in favor of your country. So that you can only do if you yourself conduct yourself in a very respected way.
Thank you very much. Let me bring in Captain Francis Babu. First, you asked about the casino. Let's put that casino.
No, I just want to know the name, but you didn't want to tell me. Yes.
This story broke 3 weeks ago. It went around. The Prime Minister went on the floor of Parliament, said he would be asking the Minister of Cabinet, Honorable Jejo Dong, to come and give a statement. He gave a statement. The PS went to Dubai, was not given access to the second floor, according to the reports that came out of there. When you look at these allegations, both in the UAE and now what happened in Canada on the streets there, what repercussions do you see for Uganda? Both the ones that are visible and the ones that are invisible.
I'd like to thank the ambassador. She was being diplomatic. Very nicely, very politely. Disgusting is the word. Extremely disgusting. We cannot continue to be ashamed away from our country, and we continue pretending as if nothing has happened. By the way, some time ago in New York, a gentleman was arrested that he was dealing in arms in our embassy. He was not a member of the embassy, but the embassy was implicated. You know, I kept quiet so that you people could think. The next point is that in the Arab world, embassies are so sensitive. They are very sensitive. You have to be extremely of high caliber. She was talking about high caliber, and that I wonder how many of them have that caliber who are in our embassies. She's talking about a pedestal of people of repute. We're talking about international relation, and diplomacy is part of the international relation. Diplomacy comes down to a smaller level. International relation is slightly bigger, and it's got a convention which was written in Geneva. A lot of laws are in there. Even the way you dress, even the way you look, even the way you talk. They say a diplomat is a person who can get two people who are apparently against each other and bring them together, and they all appreciate the diplomacy. So you're really talking about a very specialized area. You know, you people keep talking about politicians. No, politics is a management of a society. These ones you're talking about are not politicians. These are characters of different ideas completely. A politician is a leader who is supposed to have certain qualities and therefore supposed to understand even the basics we are talking about now. How to behave, to be good-mannered. Just simple, good-mannered person given a job to do in a foreign country, how to deal with the other people. Basically, how do you deal with a person in a nice way? So, basically what we're saying is that these things that are happening, and you look the way they're happening, and the kind of characters that are involved in this, the actors in this, and you begin to wonder. This country has got very, very highly qualified people who can do these jobs. And they're good. And some of them are not even considered. So we are now talking about a simple word. It's called behavior. And the psychologists, they call it a behavioral study. They study it, the psychologists. Now, if we go from that point, I've been trying very hard to try and see where is the problem. I don't think we should even blame the people who are in that casino. I don't think we should blame the person who was in Canada. We should blame the appointing authority. What was the sieve used? How was the orientation? Somebody who goes to an embassy, how should they behave? So, and you know, some of us who have not even been in embassy, when I go to foreign countries, I've got my counterparts, we talk nicely. But I must also appear not to let my country down. When I'm speaking to them, I'm not a diplomat, but I must give respect to my country. I'm a Ugandan, and therefore, when I'm talking to a foreigner, I should not let my country down. Now, how about if you are paid to do that job, to make sure that you market your country? The word is marketing here. The way you market Uganda, the way you bring it out, the way you negotiate. Like she said, when a country is they will call you, say, why are you having human rights problems? You must be able to explain in a nice way so that you leave a good picture behind. So, what is a diplomat? And I think this is where we must think very hard. Who is a diplomat? How should a diplomat be? How do they look? How do they behave? Now, a diplomat, we have a lot of diplomats here. The other day you heard the president say, but you know there are some foreign groups who are involved in this problem, but you never saw a diplomat in that street. Maybe they are. If I was a diplomat and I want to get involved in that thing, you will not see me there. Why should I go there? So at the end of the day, it's the way you behave. Your behavior is extremely important. And this, I'd like to take the opportunity to remind you, the president the other day was talking about Mogadishu, when our people were shot, and said there is a problem. The people tend to take a lot of their brothers and sisters and give them jobs. And then the other day, I think the president was talking about somebody who was giving jobs to their brothers and sisters. So we have that problem in this country. We need to give the jobs to the people who have got the ability to do those jobs. Full stop. So the problem is not there. The problem is here. How do we send the people out there? What is their quality? And how can they represent us? As I finish, and I want to say this very nicely, I am sympathetic to the lady. Maybe somebody tricked her into getting herself messed up, but she should have realized she was the ambassador. And I've just heard the word that she was the dean?
Dean of the Diplomatic
Corps. African Diplomatic Corps.
The African Diplomatic Corps in Ottawa.
In Ottawa. Very, very prestigious position. Very prestigious.
Mm-hmm. That is heavy. How do you get yourself messed up to that level? So, not to, and by the way, there are people in this government, they tend to, I don't know what, I want to use a word, they tend to praise you when actually they are destroying you. Destroying you, yeah. It's a very big challenge we have in my generation. You've seen it? Yeah, they praise you very big when they are actually destroying you. Yeah. So time has come, we need honesty. It takes me back to Singapore, where there are 3 words. Meritocracy. The second word is pragmatism, she was using. And the last one word only, honesty. We need honest leaders, for goodness sake, in this country. It hurts me to see that we have a lot of honest leaders, and they are not given the opportunity to show us what they can do.
Thank you very much. Yes, Edgar, before I bring in Professor.
Before I came in, it is the first time I'm meeting Ambassador Sempala physically. But if you asked me about her, I would probably have read you her CV, how she read engineering, the Soviet Union, and this and this. There's a WhatsApp group where we are, and I was intrigued one time I asked her, but how was this person who was educated in the USSR able to transition into a diplomat, go and negotiate bilateral and multilateral agreements and assistance to Uganda. And you remember, let me say it on air really, because Ambassador Sempala is a legend. I'm a legal practitioner, I've taught law. You remember the NIRA support to the judiciary, justice, law and order sector?
Yes.
She's the brains behind it.
Oh, she was in the Scandinavian.
Yes, yeah, in all the countries. She really, and she was young, and she didn't have a background in diplomacy. She trained as an engineer. Because there's been that debate I've been hearing. It's not come out in the fall. That's the problem of having non-career diplomats. Now, I wish to disagree with that. We've had many persons.
I disagree with it.
Yeah.
Like I disagree with the lawyers that they should do everything.
That's an argument for another day. And at the time when Ambassador Sempala was serving, there were many other persons who served with the distinction without having a background as career diplomats. There was if I omit people, it's not that they do not deserve mention, but let me mention let Tom Sange. Sometime when he served, and sometimes served in similar stations. And then at some point, even I think Ibrahim Muchibi, when he left cabinet, he was deployed in the external service. There was late Ambassador Katunji. You know, people who didn't have a background as career diplomats, but they served with the distinction. Why? Background check, grooming. Grooming. I come from a kingdom area, Toro Kingdom, and I served as Attorney General of the Toro Kingdom. We have a long-established tradition. For you to be accepted to serve the king, man, there are certain background checks they do on you. You know, this question, Olimwanawani, is not a status question. It's like, who raised you, or how were you raised? Now, this ambassador, we are all concentrating on that skit of her participating in a protest. Mind you, she left the official High Commissioner's vehicle and went to join the street protests.
Which could be turned into riot.
Riot, I mean, you
place
place security, the host country's security, at a great, but no, the allegations are much more than that. The allegations of visa abusers. Big allegations by the visa. Members of our own family and extended, I won't go into the details because we're on public broadcaster television, but there are those allegations. There are as well allegations of her not attending functions where she's expected to preside as Dean of the Diplomatic Corps of the African Accredited Envoys in Ottawa. And in some of these countries, an accredited envoy not attending a function is a protest in diplomatic terms. If you don't, it's taken very seriously. So sometimes, and I can't really call it indiscretion, some people don't know the weight of and responsibilities of the offices that they carry. Okay. And mind you, she's from Lango. The person she replaced, there was one was dropped, Ambassador Julius Moto, Peter Moto. No, that's one in Washington. This one was in UK. He was the Court of St. James. A very distinguished fellow. He had done exceptionally well in South Africa. He was moved to the UK. You wonder why you would drop, and this is a question I'm putting to President Museveni. I wonder why you would drop Ambassador Moto and in his place appoint, I mean, if you have to appease certain constituencies, go for quality. And we are not short of quality in this country. Then the Dubai thing.
One of the things that you have to do, image management. Image management by ambassadors is a very big thing. And you were talking about attending functions. In fact, that's one of the major things they do. But I wanted just to give you one point of career diplomats not doing a good job. When Iraq was invading Kuwait, the American ambassador who was there, who was a diplomat, career diplomat, could not warn,
Saddam
Hussein. No, to attack.
Not to attack.
He wrote a letter which virtually more or less told him to attack. So it also depends. Career diplomats also have made mistakes.
The terrible mistakes. I mean, she's mentioning a case of Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
Of, you know, we've seen them make mistakes. We've had career diplomats also engaging in drunkenness. But one of the biggest challenges we have in foreign service is that because, and this also comes now to budgeting, many of them do not live the normal family lives that we lead. They live apart from their what? From their spouses. And you know, there are many temptations for young people. And quite a number, and I would like to state this categorically. You know, I'm very strong on that, Timothy. Many of our career diplomats take to addiction. Many of them take to abuse of alcohol and drugs. Yes, we've had divorce cases of persons in foreign service.
Even peddling drugs.
Yes, peddling drugs. And sometimes they go together. Once you have access to them and you realize you can make an extra buck, that happens. So really, I think, because even in the case of the High Commissioner at Ottawa, the aspect of drunkenness has been mentioned by the host government. Now, this could be a bigger issue of you talked of behavior, but also there could be the bigger issue of employee support, that when they are posted outside of their cultures or this milieu, I think they go off their rails and they are unable to cope with the challenges of the day-to-day life, normal family life that they are not living, their children. If they have to move with their children, by the way, the cost of education is prohibitive.
Yes.
It's prohibitive. And I would like to say this on the air, that the government has to start addressing the welfare of these foreign service officers. We are losing a whole generation of people out there. And some of this behavior is as a result of depression that they acquire in the challenging workplace.
Thank you very much. Allow me bring in Professor. What I hear from Ambassador, Captain Francis and Edgar is really country above self in the connotation there. But on these two incidents, how do we repair this damage?
Yeah, so how do you repair the damage? Depends on who has actually raised the concern and the complaint. As Edgar said, these things have occurred before. I think it goes to our PR. But maybe what I can say is, you know, diplomatic relations are managed by the Vienna Convention. 1961 on diplomatic relations, 1963 on consular relations. They lay down, as everyone has said, what people should do and should not do, how they should behave and should not behave. And the very fact that the host country cannot invade your premises and also cannot arrest you, so the best they can do is back to sender. Or if the sending country is very smart and doesn't want to wait for the order of back to sender, will simply recall you. So that does create an issue. And I know people have said, you know, career diplomats make mistakes. Yeah, we all make mistakes regardless of our natures of training.
Yes.
But I think there is still need for training people when they are going. And by this, I don't mean first degree, second degree, third degree in diplomatic studies. But I've seen what happens also, even for our own neighbors like Rwanda, not Rwanda, Kenya and whatever. Before someone becomes a diplomat in a certain place, they are taken for training of even a month or 2 or 3 in a country which is similar. If you're going to Canada, they will put you for 1 month in the UK to see how that place works. We have here an MCTC, it's a Danida Center in Arusha, where every person who was coming to serve as a diplomat on the African continent, and it's as old as the 1960s. Now they went into partnership with the Tanzanian government. But it was established to train Danish foreign service officials who are coming to serve on the African continent. So there is a space and a need for training people where they are going. Someone could be in those places, you don't know whether they knew about the rules apart from what they are handed with, because there's a whole body of knowledge that governs diplomatic relations. It's not about being there, supporting this and appearing there, and you're given 1, 2, 3, 4 soaps and then you begin working. So there are whole conventions, and those conventions have histories of why they are actually in place. So that is one. So in case someone has the opportunity, and this may be what Councillor Edgar talks about, employee support, and you're sending them somewhere, can they be trained beyond a mere briefing? At least let them be inducted, I think that's the right word, into what they are going. Let them learn the culture of the place. For example, if you know that the Middle Eastern cultures hate from their religion and their society anything called gambling, then that is not the kind of business you could actually be innovating with. Okay? If the other group celebrates civil liberties and freedom of speech, then you should not be seen to be having an altercation with the people. In any case, in these Vienna conventions, as a diplomat, you're supposed to be caring for your nationals. So if you're going to have an altercation with them on the street, then how are you going to protect them? So people read a lot of things into that. So there's an issue of training, there's an issue of support, there's an issue of appraisal. Well, I know one of them had worked as an ambassador elsewhere, so how was he appraised to go to the next mission? I don't know much about the consular officer we had in Canada. I don't know where else she had worked. But
it was her first.
So there's the whole issue
she was
of
MP
appraisal.
for Kole district.
Okay, so thanks for the information. So there's the support, there's training, there's appraisal. But also one thing we shouldn't forget, and maybe members have hinted on it, our embassies are not well supported financially. They look big from our kind of salaries, but those salaries are very small for the countries.
For the countries where they serve.
I remember when I was doing my PhD training and I had my kids in the UK, and I thought I needed to get Ugandan passports for them. And I wanted to go to the embassy because I thought it would be nice to go to the embassy. We were still younger, you should go see your embassy in this place. I was told, no, put everything by post and they come. But then I said, but if I want to come, how do I find? It's like, you'll not find anyone here. So why was I told I would not find anyone here? Because people have gone to work to make ends meet. But you see, that's not even not the ambassador, but the consular officials, the foreign service officials that work in the embassy. But also then, isn't that a violation of the rules that govern them? We've had stories of people having to go to certain countries and workers in certain foreign missions saying, bring for me this, and they're not saying that because they just are missing home food or home things. They're saying, bring for me this because they have limitations financially of how to cope. And probably that could raise the issues of depression and what they are doing in those countries. And you know, winter can be very bad. It causes a lot of depression. And if you're in a country with winter and far away from home, actually you'll suffer from depression. But you said, how do we go about damage control? Uganda has a whole ministry of national guidance. We have a whole PR missionary. These people are under Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I imagine Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a PR machinery. And I think it's because we are talking about it, but very soon in Uganda it will fizzle out. But I know to where we have gone, the next people we are sending, we shall have to give them an assurance that we have sent the right people. So it goes back to what colleagues on the panel are saying, let's get the right people, let's vet them. I say let us also induct them and give wherever they are going assurances. I know many diplomats, not only Ugandan diplomats that misbehave, many diplomats do misbehave in certain places, but it is about you assuring the receiving country that this time we have the right person. But also those who are being returned, I think should also be supported to integrate.
Thank you.
In the country very well. Thank you.
One point I want to make. Let us admit one fact. Uganda, this particular government has not been supporting foreign missions.
Okay.
And that's extremely important. There's one point here, which nobody's talking about. There's something called intelligence gathering by embassies. And when they say intelligence gathering, although yours is doing intelligence gathering, the other side is also gathering intelligence from you. So the whole point is that we are working in a very difficult environment.
Before I give all of you parting shots, please allow me end with the ED. When the undertones you've had, there is facilitation, there is induction and all these things, how do we review this foreign mission to benefit country above self?
I think I'll speak from a fairly broader perspective, because this is not an area of my experience. I will say that Uganda has missions abroad, but also has ambassadors who have shown our torch. The most recent example is Joshua Cheptegei, I think his name is, the one who got the gold medal. I think there is a place for us to celebrate who we are as a nation beyond what people see about us in representations of persons and whatever. And I think that's a place that missions can take up. Promoting our cultures, there are things that bring us together as a nation that supersede our political differences. I think that these are areas that we need to begin to promote as part of our mission. But that said, right now, I need to diplomatically register Ugandans. And I think in that way, even in diaspora, it's an identification of who you are begins to give you comfort, joy, and a feeling of belonging, and respect for who and what your country represents. I don't want to throw so many stones, given that I'm in the roasting seat as it might be. But all I could say is, I think we have so many things to promote as a nation, and our diplomatic houses, our foreign embassies could showcase we have 65 tribes. What's the strength of each? We have the second highest mountain in Africa, the longest river, the largest lake. We have a message, we have a future, we have a hope. We have things that we can talk about that supersede the things that divide us.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start with Professor, I'll go to Edgar, the ED, Ambassador, and finally Captain Francis Babu. Your parting shots. I'll start with the Professor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mate. For me, I'm encouraged by what NIRA is planning to do. I think let us quicken the procurement process and ensure that people are registered, but it shouldn't just be the cycles and the cycles of adults. I think let us make registration of citizens routine so that everyone who is born is entitled to a legal identity by the state. So that's what I can say. So I wish NIRA all the best as they intend to do that. Please explore ways of reducing the procurement process, and we have the right information to plan with. With regard to what has happened at our missions, I hope this bad press passes and passes very fast. And as I said, these are people who have served this country before in different capacities. Even as they return home, let them be supported. But like everybody has said, let us support our embassies. Let us induct those who work there, appraise them, and give them all the support they need to perform. And also, as they are given that, let them brand the country. Today I had a story of how, I think one of our hubs, I think in Italy, which is, I think it was launched by the president as a coffee hub. Someone went there, very enthusiastic about branding Uganda, and found no Ugandan, but some Nigerian occupying the place. Not that I have any problem with Nigerians, I love them very much. But I think let them be supported to do what they're supposed to do as consular people, so that they can move around, so that they can secure our interests, and so that they can really brand and fly our flag. Thank you.
Edgar, I can't leave you without a twist, a comment on the investigation that is at hand.
Which investigation?
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is saying there's an investigation on the casino allegation.
They sent the Director General of ESO there. He gathered this evidence. What more investigation do we need? I saw...
It's not allowed to.
I saw...
Yes.
No, but there's a team from ESO that went before the PS. But I've also seen on one of the online media, Ambassador, the Consul General, Ambassador Maiga, asking for audience with the president to give his side of the story. Now, me, I think that is a very, very big statement. Whatever that means. He says other people have spoken and what, but I want to, in the fairness and in natural justice, to benefit from natural justice, he needs to tell the president his side of the what?
Of the story.
But I think beyond that, we Ugandans need his side of the story. It's not just the president. He's representing all of us. We need that side of the story to come to us. I emphasize that we need employee support for foreign service officers. The persons we send there, they need constant reskilling, constant retooling, and importantly, they need employee support for their mental health well-being. Because once that mental health well-being is disturbed, everything else crumbles. As for NIRA, I have every confidence in Madame Kisembo and the wider team at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The number of generals there, the minister is a general, the junior minister is a general, the director is a general, the two commissioners, one is a colonel and one is a brigadier general. So, and she may not be a general, but she's in very good company. So we are going to give them timelines, and you have very best wishes from me, Madam Kisembo and your team.
Madam Edie, over to you.
I want to take this opportunity to assure Ugandans that those who need to register before the 30th November, you have an opportunity of both the new and the old. While you wait for the new, register. Kanchide mu Luganda. System empya ejja. Naye nga bwe tugirindirideko katono weewandiise. Even now, even tomorrow. Number one. Number two, on our register, we already have 59% of the population, and we'll strive to get the rest of it registered. Number three, the work has started, and has started in earnest. And as you said, I'm in very good company. The team at the ministry has been a great support. The team at the Ministry of Finance has been a great support. The team across different NITA, you know, the private sectors that we've discussed as well, have also been a great support. And the team within NIRA has fought resiliently in spite of all the delays. And I would like to thank them and say we are working diligently and we look forward to registering you in time.
Thank you very much.
In terms of our Uganda is still one of the most beautiful countries. This is my 2 pence to the diplomatic issues. We have the longest river, the second highest snow and only snow-capped mountain at the equator. We have a very beautiful country. And you can ask Winston Churchill and the legacy that lives on. So we will transcend beyond whatever is happening right now. Thank you.
As Captain Babu would say, there are 2 positions available for an ambassador. Over to Ambassador Edith.
Thank you very much, Timothy. I want to associate with what Edgar has said concerning NIRA. I too feel encouraged and have confidence in Madame Edie. So my request is that she would be supported to succeed, because I think she has the competence, she has the will, which is very, very important. She's committed and she can actually do the job. She's already doing a lot, but with support she will be able to actually deliver on time and in quality that is required. And I think the resources, to me, are there. They are there. Now, turning to diplomacy, the challenges that Edgar has mentioned, I lived through them. I lived through them. But you see, every challenge can turn into an opportunity.
It's true.
If you choose to make it. But if you choose to lament and focus on what is missing, you may miss what is important. And therefore, to me, diplomacy must be taken very seriously. International relations, we depend on international relations. We depend on other countries for trade, for doing business, for tourism, and therefore we must therefore accord the importance that international relations and diplomacy in particular, deserves.
Thank you.
And that must be reflected in the appointing, in the appointments, the vetting, the training, and the support.
Thank you very much. Finally, Captain Francis Babu.
There are 22 embassies, Uganda embassies abroad, and 20 consulates. Most of them have done very well. We've had a problem. Out of 22, 2 problems. So 2 out of 22 is not really a bad number, if we had to go percentage-wise. So we must learn from those mistakes. Put them behind us. How do we move forward? And I think the ball is in the court of the leaders of this country, who must now go and look at foreign missions as very important to this country, and therefore support them. The old system of ignoring them should stop. There are people in this country, when some of us went abroad, we used to report to our embassy. That's how I got to know Trafalgar Square when I first went to London.
Yes.
So embassies are important. We would like to see them supported. By the way, this is one of the very few countries from Africa that has got houses with, buildings they have bought for our embassies. And they were bought by this country. The one in Trafalgar Square is our building. The one in New York. So
Nairobi.
Washington. So it's very important that we support our embassies. And like she said, let's orientate our people so that they can understand what diplomacy is all about. Lastly, we must support this lady. To get this is a very big job. We must give her support. Of course, she's not an angel. Mistakes will happen. The important things, they will be corrected. And we know how to correct them, because she's also got a department that looks into mistakes. She didn't tell you that, but she's got it. So, as far as I'm concerned, the idea of the identity card is we should give her support so that she can churn them out quicker. And if we can get all the other people to support her. She talked about the private sector. I talked about the driving license. People don't take this seriously, but all these people, if we all work together, we could end up, even the driving license we're talking about now, in 5 years' time, we might have a completely different driving license.
That's true.
So we need to look at all of them and plan even ahead. And if we did it the way she's saying it, the work would be less. So it's important that we work together. And by the way, these mistakes that have been made, they're human. Let's find solutions to them. But let us not sit there and leave the embassies, the missions. All missions of Uganda should be highly supported. You cannot have a worker of United Nations in New York earning a certain amount of money, and your ambassador does not even get half. Are you with me? These international organizations have got salaries. We know what they are. They've got allowances for educating the children. Now, The reason they do that is because the capitals where they stay are extremely expensive.
Yes.
And the schools are expensive. Therefore, we've got to give them the money that befits.
That befits this
So
status.
you cannot tell me you have an ambassador in New York and the officer, a career diplomat in United Nations, is earning $8,000 and your man is earning $4,000.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And I hope they have heard. And by the way, the permanent secretary of the Minister of Foreign Affairs would like to ask him to look into that seriously with the Minister of Finance.
I'll just read one message. It comes in from Edward in Zana. He says, I concur with Mzee Babu and Edgar. The problem is the appointing authority. Okay? I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll read just. I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming through, for being able to be present and discussing such patent issues, and also the team that has been behind the cameras in the control room. Thank you for making today possible. We'll end it this way. Accepting both compliments and criticism, it takes both the sun and the rain to grow a flower. Good morning.
I'm Dr. Sandy Nixon. I'm the economist of PDM Parliament Model, who sits at the Secretariat, and I'm in charge of pillar number 4, which is social services, and also Ediamfuna, which we call economics. So far, so good. As PDM, we come closer to the people, and that's its purpose, that bring service closer to the communities. Therefore, we made sure we come closer to the people. I myself, we came to know that these people are in need, mostly in Natet parish, because of the various activities they are doing. Therefore, we engaged them, and we had to call also other partners to come in to support, mostly on mindset. Yes, to change their mind from what they are doing to come up and they do what is right, mostly for economic transformation. Briefly about Natet, that the leaders of the parish
terrorism will become terrorists.
Well, let's get to the Middle East now. There have been violent scenes in Israel as police clashed with Orthodox Jews. Authorities were seen dragging demonstrators off the streets, beating them with batons and using water cannon to disperse them. The rallies were called in protest over the idea of seeking more conscripts for the war in Gaza. Now, RT contributor Robbie Berman sent us this report.